My brother,
What's
Barry,
going on?
what's good, man?
What's up, big dog? What's
Ain't
going on,
nothing.
bro?
Ain't that dog trying to be like you when I grow up, man. Listen. I'm trying to run that race. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to.
Running
I'm
race.
trying to run that race, man. For everybody watching, what we're gonna talk about today is running your own race. Listen, life isn't a sprint. It's
Mm,
not a sprint. It's a marathon.
right.
And what we're gonna talk about today is breaking down how you need to stay in your lane,
Mm,
keep your pace, and finish strong. Listen, run your race. We're about halfway through 2025.
right.
And one thing, Barry, that I can see going on, and we'll get into this, is that we're too focused on what other folk are doing.
Mm,
Like we're too focused on um, what happens on social media, what's happening in the world, and with celebrities and all of this stuff, that we've lost sight of the race that we're supposed to be running, man.
right.
So I think that's going to be powerful today to just talk about not just some important things about running your race, but how can you focus while
Mm,
you're trying to live this life out and run your race, man. I want to drop this clip before we get started, Barry, and then we'll jump right in.
okay.
The best pieces of advice I'll give you as a runner is to run your own race. A lot of times what I see happening in marathons is people get sucked into running faster than they should, or following the crowds and going quicker and worried about all the stuff that's going around them, what everybody else is doing. When you come to the race, you've got this great plan, this great strategy, and a goal in mind, but it goes out the window as soon as you run somebody else's race. And the same thing applies to your life. We get often distracted by people around us, how they're measuring their success, what they're doing, the accolades they're getting, when in reality, all you need to do is focus in on yourself. And when you can look yourself in the mirror and you know you're putting in the work and you know you're in the grind, you've got clear goals that you know are a stretch and aren't just these little easy BS goals. When you know you've got a real hard goal and an objective in front of you, that's all you need to focus on every single day. Run your own race.
So let's get into that, man. Let's get
Let's
into
do it.
running your race. Listen, I read this quote the other day, man. I thought it was so good. It said, "Don't measure your growth with someone else's ruler."
Ooh,
It
ooh.
said it said don't measure your growth with someone else's ruler. And I think we get locked in a lot of times to comparisons. We get
Mm-hmm.
locked in to comparing ourselves to other people and to the things that they're doing and what they're doing, that we negate the fact that we're not racing against anybody.
Right.
We're not racing against anybody, man. Like we're running the race that God has called us to run, whatever that
Mm,
may be, and it's imperative and it's important that we focus on what it is that we're supposed to be doing. So what we want to give y'all is three concepts about
mm,
running your race. I'm gonna drop the first one. Then I'm gonna let Barry jump on in here. But the first one is to focus on your own journey,
mm.
not making comparisons.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Man, I just want to, talk about what you just said, man. We focus on what everybody else is doing. And I think social media has definitely made it hard to really just focus on what you got in front of you, because
Right.
we're looking at what John is doing, what Brian is doing, what James is doing, whatever, instead of really being, laser focused on, what you are called to do.
Right.
And social media is always with what, looking, strolling, just looking at different things that people are doing, vacations, houses,
Right.
cars,
Right.
different things of
Right.
that nature. But bro, that clip you just put up, it's a prime example, man, of making sure we stay focused on our journey. Man,
Right.
dude, I ran a 10K earlier this year. Didn't plan on doing it. I ain't
How
gonna
many
even
how many K's was that?
10K, 10K. No, and not steps, but
Right.
10 kilometers, right?
Right. 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 Right.
but but bro, like it was an amazing experience for me, bro, because like I really wasn't focused in on, man, what's gonna be my time? I'm gonna beat everybody out there. Dude, I just wanted to finish.
Right.
I
Right.
just I just wanted to finish.
Right.
And that's how I went in there. I could care less how they were flying past me and everything. And I told you the guy who won it, be Will. So let me say this. I ran the race in an hour and 26 minutes.
Right.
Okay. This was my first one, guys. So I don't care if you got an opinion about that or not.
Right.
So I was happy I got it done.
Right.
But the guy who won, bro, he ran that race and his time was 26 minutes.
Wow.
He did the whole race in 26 minutes. Dog, I don't think I was halfway in 26 minutes.
Good God.
But that's a prime example, bro. What if I was looking at him,
Mm.
right?
Right.
Trying to run that race.
Right. Right.
He's running a different race, B Will.
That's it.
I remember Chap said this. Was playing golf with Chap. Shout out Michael Chappelle out
My
there.
guy.
My guy. We was playing golf. Chap was walking while I was riding the golf cart,
Right.
and we was hitting the ball at the same time. I said, bro, you sure you don't need a golf cart? He's like, nah, bro. We play a different game. You know what I'm saying? but
And
bro,
that's the beautiful thing about golf, man. Like
yeah, man.
you're not even supposed to be comparing yourself to the next person. You playing the course. You playing yourself. You trying to be
True.
better this round than you were the last round.
Right.
Right. And that's the beauty of it, man. Like I think we get so caught up in comparing. And you brought up a good thing when you brought up social media. Social media can be so detrimental to our progress.
Right.
Now it can be very productive too, but it can be so detrimental to our progress because what social media does is it allows us to see the best of everyone or the worst of everyone. Right? We don't see what's going on in the middle. And when you begin to compare yourself with people, what we miss is we don't know what they went through, right? But we also don't know what they're going through because everybody has some faults. Everybody has some things that they're struggling with that you don't see in social media. Man, listen to this verse. This is one of your favorite verses, man. I think you put me on to this verse in 2 Corinthians 10:12. Not that we dare to classify or compare ourselves with some of those who are commending themselves. But when they measure themselves by one another and compare themselves with one another, they are without understanding. Man, listen, the King James Version says they are fools.
Oh, and another one says they're not wise.
They're not
Right.
wise.
Not wise. For that is not wise.
So
Yeah.
it's not wise to compare yourself to other people for so many reasons.
Right.
And I think on this journey, man, like when we're trying to accomplish our goals, it's hard to just stay focused on what you're called to do and not what everybody else is doing. Listen, God is building something in us as we run our race.
That's so
Like
good.
there's something going on, man. Like there's something going on as we are running our race. Like when you were running that 10K, there was something going on in them 20 them what, an hour? There was
Bro.
something happening.
Bro.
And it was building something. Go ahead.
Right now, it was so good, man. Started off, dog. I started off in that race, and like within the first 5 minutes, I started to cramp,
Right.
and I was like, "No, this ain't about to go down like this today. No, not your boy. I'm not finna, stop." But guess what? What I failed to do prior to the race was I didn't hydrate like I
Right.
should have.
Right.
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 I learned that you gotta hydrate for a race like that. I
Right.
didn't know your boy was drinking coffee, you know, out like I normally do. Um, and then and bro, it was a lot of, moments where I was motivated,
Right.
not motivated,
Right. Right.
motivated,
Right.
not motivated. But I think that's man, that I think that describes life, man. It's like, bro, there's some times when, hey man, it feels good, everything's going well, but then there are times where it's rough.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Well, you don't feel like it. Like you don't feel like getting a man this morning, man. Look, we've been at the beach since from Sunday to Wednesday.
right.
I came back Wednesday, got that first workout in, and
Mm-hmm.
it was
Mm-hmm.
rough.
Right, right,
Worked out twice yesterday. It was rough. Woke up this morning, I didn't feel like it.
right.
I didn't feel, and we're gonna get to this a little bit later. But
Yeah.
when you don't feel like it, Bo, you have to learn to deny your will, deny
Mm,
yourself, right? And what you said is there's ups and downs. Like growth is not linear, right? So there's so
mm,
many ups and downs that goes on. My brother said this quote to me a long time ago. I don't know if he even remembers it, but he said, God oftentimes only lights your path enough for the next step.
mm,
He only likes it enough for the next step.
mm.
And if you're so focused on everybody else's steps and not the steps that you're supposed to be taking, listen,
Right.
the scripture says the steps of a good man are
Mm.
ordered by, but you got to take the steps, right?
Gotta take steps. Yeah.
You got to take the steps, and he lights it up one step at a time. And if
Right.
we're so focused on comparing ourselves to other people, we're not going to take the steps. And
Right.
then those steps that you don't take are not ordered.
But bro, let's sit right there for a little bit
Let's
though.
sit on it.
So like he likes the next step, right? And I know a lot of people they want to see steps 1 through 10.
Right.
But a lot of times if he shows us steps 1 through 10, I think we might not even start
Right.
to, what I'm saying? If I would have known I was gonna be hurting so much at the end, I probably wouldn't have done some of the things I've done in, in my life. For instance, like the 10K. If I would have known I would have been cramping up at the end like I was, I probably like, man, that's not my thing. But
Right.
I feel like you said he's building some things in you, right? He's building some things in you so you can handle what's coming at the end, you
Right.
know.
It's
So
character development.
right,
Like
right.
it's development that's happening when something is not happening for us, it's happening to us. Right.
Mm,
And so
mm,
there's development that's going on
right.
during the process. Right. That's why we can't negate the process, man. You have to trust the process because there's something that's being developed within us as we
Mm,
go through those things. You know
right.
what I'm saying? And if you're so focused, watch this, if you're so focused on what other folk are doing,
Mm,
you can't look back and see how the development has been taking place in your own life.
bro.
Because you're looking at what everybody else doing.
So we like to focus on um what we will have
Right.
instead of who we are becoming. You know what I'm saying? Like God is trying to help us become, somebody, not necessarily just give you something. So like that's that becoming, bro. Like
Right.
that's being who God called you to be. God has to orchestrate certain things in order to build you. Dog. So I always think I learned so much from you the same way. We learn so much from our kids, right?
Absolutely.
And I just think about, man, how like with my daughter Savannah, like, and how she progresses in gymnastics. She goes from level to level.
Mm.
But, you know, I remember when she first started, she could barely do the forward roll. That's just rolling over. She didn't
Right.
want to do that. But
Right.
now she's doing like a front tuck with no hands. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So, and
I
I
know
asked,
all the terminology because my daughter can't do none of it.
but the thing is, I'm looking at where she was to where she is
Right.
right now and what she had to do in between. she had to build so many different things in between to get to this current level,
Right.
right?
Right.
So whatever level we're trying to get to, guess what?
There's some building.
There's some building that needs to occur.
That's it.
So yeah.
That's it. Yeah, like and we don't see that happening all the
Mm,
time
hmm.
because that's slow progress. That's
Right,
slow progress. And we don't enjoy slow progress.
right,
We don't enjoy. We want it quick. Like we want to hit the lottery, right? We don't want to save every month. We want to hit the lottery.
right.
And I think I said this on my last podcast on patience. We talked about patience,
Hmm.
and what I talked about was the fact that a lot of times when it happens so quickly, we
Mm,
don't gain anything. We end up losing what it is that we had
right.
because we didn't develop what was needed to be able to keep it.
Mm,
And when you get stuff too fast, that's the problem with this generation. And it's and the fault of it is not the generation's fault. It's our fault as parents.
mm,
See, we don't want our kids to struggle for anything. So we give them everything because they're good kids. I'm guilty of it.
right,
And so because of that, they don't develop what's needed to maintain what we give them. And it's
right.
our fault as parents because we struggle. Like I was talking to my son. I probably told this story before, and he was like, "Man, Daddy," he go in the closet. Hey, Dad, you got a lot of J's up there. It's like, bro, when I was growing up, I couldn't get no J's.
Right.
We got one pair of shoes, and that was when school started.
That's it.
And,
The new,
and
the
you
new
better
school.
hold them down all year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We might get some at Christmas. You know
maybe,
what I'm saying? Christmas.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
but what was developed because of those experiences is now I get me a pair of J's, boy, I'm gonna have them for the next 15, 20 years because I'm gonna take care of them
Right.
because of the process. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And sometimes here's the thing, we don't see other folk process. So it's easy to make comparisons. Stephen Furtick said this. He said, we struggle with insecurity because we compare our behind the scenes with everyone
Hmm.
else's highlight reel. Let me say that again. We struggle with insecurity because we compare our behind the scenes with
Hmm.
everyone else's highlight reel. That's what social media is. You're looking at people highlight reels. You're
Right.
not looking at the struggles that they're going through every day. You don't see those things. And so we end up comparing ourselves
Hmm.
amongst ourselves.
Hmm.
And 2 Corinthians 10:12 says that's unwise.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
So Bear, how if we're talking about focusing on your own journey, not making
Hmm.
comparisons, how do you do that? Like practically, how do you do that? How do you focus on your journey and not on what other folk are doing?
Well, I think the first thing, man, is understanding what's having a clear vision, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
make sure you clear on
Right.
what you want. I think that's the biggest thing. Sometimes we don't know what we want.
Right.
So we look at other people and we let them decide what we want, you know. So I think that's the biggest thing is because if you're clear on what you want, right, you'll know what you don't need,
That's it.
right?
That's
Right.
it.
I,
Yeah.
I, I think I heard Dame says, when you focus on something, it lets you know what not to focus on as well. You
Right.
know,
Right.
so
It's two
I just
sides to that coin.
absolutely, man, and I feel like when we are focused, it allows us to put off things that are not necessarily beneficial for us,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then also clarity, what gives us speed,
Speed.
right? Speed.
I
So
wrote that
like
down.
yeah, yeah. Clarity gives us speed, man.
Right.
So
Right.
when we got the clarity on what we are trying to pursue, we know what we don't need. We just, put off that weight.
Mm.
I think that's one of the things, man. I think for a period of time and just be transparent. I cut off social media.
Me too.
Cut it off.
Yeah.
I mean, cause it was just a ton of things I was just getting distracted with and not knowing who I was as a man, not knowing who I was spiritually,
Right.
just really wasn't focused on what God had for me. So
Mm-hmm.
for a period of time, I think it's healthy. I
Mm-hmm.
just, you know, got rid of social media. Yeah.
Right. And social media has its benefits now. Definitely have its benefits.
Oh, it does. It does.
And but there's two sides to the coin too.
Right.
And so you got to be careful. You got to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I would say one way that I focus on my journey is something that you gave me years ago that I still use today, and that's my to-do list and my success list, right? That's looking at my goals every morning. Bruh, there are certain scriptures I read every morning. I look at my goals every morning, and that keeps me focused on what I'm supposed to be doing. And the critical thing about that is that I have them written down, but I have them in my phone. That's something I learned from you. And when I get midday and I get a little discouraged, I look back at them goals. All right, this is who I am. This is what I'm supposed to be. And we'll get to that a little bit later down in the stream, but it's that focus on what you're supposed to be doing in the moment. And that's the process that we go through. Man, let me get some shout outs. Some people that's on. PK and Tan says the only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be.
Love that.
The person you decide to be. Tim Griffin, this my media guy.
Oh,
man.
Tim. Shout out to Tim.
Big
I
Tim.
know,
Yeah, that's your media guy too.
yeah, man.
What
Hey,
up?
man. Content, work. Tim
You
got you.
it. Igniting vision.
Yeah.
Man, and
there we go.
let me tell y'all something about Tim. The thing about Tim is he's sincere when he says he ignites vision. Like, he texted me something the other day, and I was like, bro, I need that in English. Like, I didn't know what he was talking. It was you know what I'm saying? It was some kind of technical media stuff. And he broke that thing down for me.
He's in the Greek. He's in the Hebrew.
He was in the Greek. I needed a concordance, a lexicon for him. You know what I'm saying? But he does a really good job of editing content, websites, all of that. I also saw your pastor on here, Pastor John. Hey, with John.
Hey, that's my guy. Yeah.
That's man, so full, bro. And then Gavin, I see Gavin on here, my guy, Eagles fan. Yeah. We got another comment down here. I didn't hit all the comments. Miss Crawford. Miss Crawford is going through her dissertation process right now. So she's always tapped into what we're doing. Definitely important to look at where we were as we continue to progress, not lose hope or give up. But if we look at others' progression and think that's where we are supposed to be, we stop appreciating and allowing the necessary experience to grow you. Man, that's she said more. All of it ain't pop up on the screen, but she said a little more, talking about the rabbit and the hare. Tim says, create your I am statements. Create your affirmations. And glory to God, bro. That's my guy right there, man.
Yeah, man.
Barry, he out there on that golf course too.
I hear.
He out there on that golf course now.
I hear, man. Hey,
hitting it all over there.
One day.
Yes, sir.
One day.
Yes, sir. So what we wanted to focus on in the first one, the first point, kind of principle is focusing on your own journey and not making comparisons. But it's another key point that we need to make is, and Ms. Crawford kind of hit this, is timing. Because timing is critical. I want to show this little clip before we get into it, but timing is critical. Watch this.
And I think that's the way the enemy talks. You're gonna miss it. You're gonna miss it. Yep. God never. If somebody ever hears, I'm late. Yep. I'm missing my moment. I'm missing my opportunity. Yep. That voice that you're hearing is not the voice of God. Yep. That's not how God talks. He speaks more. We're good. It's okay. But God, someone's rushing past me. They're winning the race. Preston, they're not in your race. Yep. I have them in a different race. Yep. They're not beating you. Yep. As long as you walk with him, yep, you can never be late, yep, to anything.
As long as you walk with him, you can never be late to anything. So the second critical component is embracing your own timing.
Right.
Embracing your own time. And listen to this quote, Barry. You can't compare an oak tree to a rose. They're both beautiful, but they bloom in their own time. Whew. They bloom in their own time, and time, like we hate to see someone walking in their time, in the perfect timing for them,
Mm-hmm.
because they're getting what we thought that we were supposed to have.
Yeah, man.
Right. And I talked about this when we talked about patience. I'm going to plug it, Practical Purpose Podcast. If you missed it, go check YouTube or my Facebook. We talked about patience. And one thing that we talked about is there's a difference between your ideal time and the right time.
Right.
It's a difference between your ideal time and the right time. And God determines the right time.
Right.
And so often we want things to happen in our ideal time, which is our ideal time. But remember, we can't see around the corner. We can just see to the corner.
Right.
And so it's important and it's critical that we embrace our own timing. Listen to what Ecclesiastes 3:1 says. There's a time for everything and every season under the sun. And we're not all in the same season, bro. And so it's important for us to embrace our own timing, as we're trying to run our own race.
Yeah, bro. It reminds me of another scripture, Galatians 6:9. It says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Okay, the
Right.
proper time.
Proper
So
time.
yeah, man.
Right. And that's the scripture we use on patience in the Practical Purpose Podcast.
Mhm.
We said, because Paul says, and I'm going to throw this back to you because I don't want to get off. But Paul says, don't get tired of doing the right thing,
Whew.
because at the right time,
Right.
you will reap if you faint not. And he uses that agricultural terminology about reaping, which means at some point you had to plant, which means there's a time in between reaping and sowing.
Right.
Right. And that time is the process.
Right.
But the critical thing about it, bro, is nobody just sits in the house during that time.
Right.
You're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing something. You're tilling that ground. You're watering it, right? You're controlling what you can control. And so you can't get tired of doing the right thing.
Right.
And you embrace your own time. And go ahead. I ain't mean to cut you
Nah,
off like
dog.
that, bitch.
When I was walking yesterday, and it made me think about when I was a little kid, and my dad used to be like a big farmer,
Right.
right? And he would plant corn, and I remember my dad took me in the field, and I stood in the field, and I said, "Daddy, where's the corn?" Right? I'm expecting to see, the 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 corn on the cob, looking all nice out there. I'm a little kid, right?
Right. Right.
And he was like, "Look down," and there was looks like a blade of grass coming up through the dirt.
Right.
A blade, first the blade, right? And I was like, "Dad, well, where's the corn?" And he was like, "Well, that's the corn, Wilmont. It has to grow. Okay,
Right.
it has to grow, bro." Like the thing about it is like you have to plant it. It has to grow. It has to mature. The root system has to be developed. The stock has to be developed
Right.
in order to handle that ear of corn when it's fully developed.
Right.
And it's so good because I was like, man, well, when we plant something, we just, like you said, we want the harvest right then. But and in that state where that corn was when I first saw it, it couldn't handle the harvest, be will. It couldn't handle a full ear of corn. It wasn't strong enough yet. Root system wasn't big enough yet. The stock wasn't strong enough yet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like I think about a lot of things we want, right? And I'm so glad it was some things I wanted in the past. And I think I spoke to you about this. I'm so glad God didn't give it to me back then.
Right.
My root system wasn't there.
Right.
I wasn't rooted in him back then.
Right.
Oh, there was some things I had to get rid of. It was an
Right.
old that was there, you know.
Right.
And in order for and I believe this, there was a pace that I was running, and the thing is I had to do it in what's happening is in God's timing. You know,
Right.
I wanted to
Right.
make sure what I was ready for it.
Right.
You know,
And
so
he knows the strength that you're going to need to handle the harvest. You don't know it. You think you know it, but you don't know it. He knows what needs to be developed in you to handle it. Right. And so often, man, Lord, I'm trying to
go
keep it
ahead,
together,
go
man.
ahead, dog. We
So
talking.
often, like on Sundays, that's all we hear is the harvest. I came to get my blessing. That's all, you know what I'm saying? That's all we hear, but nobody is talking about the process. There's a process that you have to go through to get the harvest if you're gonna keep the harvest. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna be able to handle what you're asking for, you've got to be built strong enough during that process to be able to handle it. And we can't see around that corner. We can only see to the corner.
Dog, growth has to happen.
Growth.
Growth
Growth.
growth has to occur,
Yeah.
right? And you can't handle what he has for you in the same state you're currently in. You know what I mean?
Right.
So and I believe too much too fast can turn into a catastrophe. Don't get me wrong, I believe in quantum leaps. Don't get me
Right.
wrong.
Right.
But I believe God operates in what steps and
Steps and
stages,
stages.
you
That's
know?
it. That's
Yeah.
it. And sometimes when something happens suddenly,
hmm
we think that it just happened.
Oh
But there
man.
were steps and stages that took place before that suddenly happened. But we
Right.
only see the suddenly. Right? It's like we just in church circles we just had Pentecost and everybody talks about what suddenly the Spirit came. Jesus was preparing them the whole time.
Right.
He told them to go there and wait, like he was preparing them. There were steps and stages, and that's how he operates in our life. And he does that because he's only pleased with faith. And so if he gives it all to you at one time, it don't take no faith. You've got to operate in steps and stages and grow in faith. That's why the scripture says the righteousness of God's revealed from what? Faith to faith. And so if you're not growing in the process,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not getting better,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not really getting prepared for what it is you're asking for,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
a few comments. I see brother Tim. This is Tim's father.
Yeah.
This is Tim's
Oh
father.
wow.
God's
Yeah.
time is the best time. Never get ahead of God's timing. And he
That's
referenced
so good.
Jeremiah 29:11,
That's so good.
which is so good. He know for I know the plans I have for you. That's so good.
Mm.
I know them. The
Mm.
implication is you don't know them. God say I know them.
I
You
know.
don't know them. So you got to trust me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And then the next verse is even more critical because it says, you will look for me and you will find me when? After you have searched for me with your whole heart. We forget that verse. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
it. That's that.
That's what we don't want to do.
Oh man.
Pecan Tan says, everyone's life's fruits are growing in different seasons and
Mm.
different paces. So comparison is a broken scale and it's a
Mm.
trap.
Mm.
That's good.
The scale broke.
The scale
Mm.
broke.
Mm-hmm.
Deron Johnson, this is my guy, man. Discipline to sustain. That's right. That's developed over the process.
Mm.
Brother Charles, right. You have to be prepared for what you're expecting. Absolutely. Absolutely. I ain't gonna go through
Right.
all these comments, Barry, but
That's
Coach
good.
Goodman says getting the harvest takes grit and grace.
Mm.
Keeping it takes discipline.
Mm.
Lord have
Oh,
mercy.
that process. The process.
That's the process. That's the
Process,
process, bro. And
It don't
so,
feel it don't feel good.
right.
It's
It don't.
hard. If there's no struggle,
Right.
there's no progress. That's Frederick Douglass.
Yeah.
Bro, it's a process. And it don't feel good to wake up early in the morning.
Right.
Right.
It sure don't.
It don't feel good to work hard, 7 days a week. Right.
Right. Right.
It don't feel good to do these things day in and day out or whatever. But what does it say? Don't be wary in well doing.
And well
Bro.
doing.
It's in due time. In due time, it will happen in
Right.
its
Right.
proper time.
Right.
So
And you
yeah,
said something earlier. You said clarity creates speed.
right.
Like when you know what you're supposed to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
and in that moment, you can do it quicker. Like my son, man, he was cutting. I make him cut the grass in the backyard, not the
Right.
front yard. I make him cut the grass, and he just jumped on the mower and started cutting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said to him, I got him off the mower, got him all the way off the mower, and I said, bro, listen, you don't never attack anything without a plan. So even cutting this grass, I need to know how you plan on cutting this thing efficiently. Like how you gonna do it? And he said, well,
Right.
Daddy, I'm gonna go around the outside. We got a zero turn. He said, Daddy, I'm gonna go around the outside first, and then I'm gonna go up and down. I said, okay, now that you have a plan, let's go do it.
Right.
And so I think it's critical. I had to give him some clarity on what I expected. And once he got the clarity, whoa, y'all look just as good as if I cut it. But
Right.
he needed the clarity, and he was able to knock it out with the efficiency and the effectiveness that it was supposed to have. And sometimes we don't have clarity, watch this, because we don't spend enough time with the person who can give us the clarity. Right? We so busy on social media. We're just so busy. Like, and sometimes it's good busy. Like, you busy with your kids, you busy with your family, things like that. But the person that can give you clarity is sitting in the back on the back seat saying, listen, you ain't talked to me about it. I'll show you which way to go. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to go at our own pace. This is the last point I want to make on embracing your timing, brother. And I think this is something this is another thing I think I kind of learned from you is you got to celebrate your wins. You got to celebrate your wins, man. Like we don't want to. I struggle with that, bro. I'm
struggle
on
with
to
that.
the next thing.
I know, bro. We gotta do better with that. Yeah,
gotta do
we
better.
gotta do better. Because, and that's all. That's me being transparent. I gotta do better. Celebrating wins. You know, achieve a goal. Oh, that's cool.
Right.
Nah, man. You knew. Nah. We gotta make sure we got celebration on the end of that, whether it's big or small. You know, just
Right.
do something to celebrate that win that
Right.
you achieved.
And,
Yeah.
and what's so funny, man, Miss Crawford, who's on here, we're working through her dissertation process, right? So she sends me a picture of these people that got their robes on, they just finished. And I was like, man, I got my dissertation and I got my doctorate in 2021. My robe downstairs in the closet, never put it on. Didn't walk across the stage.
Oh man.
Didn't care. I just was ready to be done. You know, but I should have celebrated that win.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? Same thing when when we pledged. Man, after that thing was over, I slept the next 2 days. I didn't want to celebrate nothing. I was done. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we gotta slow down and celebrate the progress that we've made, even if it's small progress. You know, because small steps are still steps. You know what I'm saying?
Right, man. Right.
Yeah. Small steps
Yeah.
are still steps.
That's so good. So good.
Yeah. So one thing, the first thing, and we almost done, is focus on your journey, not comparisons. The second thing is embracing your own timing. Right. And here's the third thing that we want to talk about is staying true to your values and purpose. Spiritual growth.
Right.
Spiritual growth. Like if you're not willing to grow spiritually, then none of these other things are going to fall in place the way you want them to fall in place.
Right.
Awareness is the greatest agent of change. Like you got to know where you are spiritually. Like, am I far from God? Am I close to God? Like where am I in this season? Because we go through seasons where we may feel far, right? And you have to develop that that mental or that spiritual stamina to be able to know where you are spiritually. But I read this quote and then I'm gonna throw it to you. It said, "You can't grow spiritually by trying to be more spiritual. You grow by being more real." Like you got to be real with yourself. Like, man, no, I don't pray enough. I don't read enough. I don't listen enough. And staying true to your values, because some people are in a race where they're going to be getting rewarded for the lack of morality and values. Right. That's what we see a lot. Like, you think about these celebrities that's got all these millions of dollars, and a lot of them are amazing businessmen, right? A lot of them are amazing in business, but a lot of them do a lot of wicked things to get where they are. And we have to stay true to our values and our purpose and grow spiritually. What you got on that one?
Bro, there's a lot of different, things that's important in life. Financial, uh, you know, the family is important. Uh, your career, that's important. But I believe if we get better spiritually, it'll help everything in our life. You
Right.
know, so that's one thing that I feel like, and we see this all the time. We see millionaires, billionaires commit suicide.
Right.
We see people unhappy, lack joy, lack the fruits of the spirit, right? That come from him, you
Right.
know. So like our spiritual growth is so important that I think sometimes we neglect it, and I'm speaking uh, for myself as well. We neglect it because we are allowing so many other things to take our attention, you
That's
know.
it. Yeah.
And then we need to make sure that, man, if we get this part right, man, I believe it will create a more trying to figure out a more balanced life,
Right. Right.
balanced life. I do know sometimes things might feel out of whack, don't get me wrong,
Right. Right. Right.
but that spiritual growth, man, when those storms do happen, right, because they will,
Right.
how you respond, right, will show how much you have grown spiritually,
Right.
so
Right. Right.
yeah.
And I think spiritual growth is kind of like what Darius Daniels calls communication, a
Mm,
meta skill. Right.
mhm,
Communication is a meta skill. It's
mhm.
something that when you get that right, every aspect of your life gets better.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? And so I think the spiritual growth, and see, here's the thing with spiritual growth. Spiritual growth is denying what you want. Like that's how you develop spiritual growth. You have
Mm,
to deny your own will. And that is
mhm,
so difficult for us to do. That's why fasting is so important.
mm.
Because you're telling your body, like, you're not gonna dominate me no more. And spiritual growth comes as we deny our own will. Listen to this. Spiritual growth is measured by your response to the world around you.
Mm,
And we had that conversation a few weeks ago. I think you talked to Hayward about that.
yeah.
Like, how do you respond to the world around you will show you your spiritual growth. I saw a clip on I think Instagram. I forgot the guy's name. Very inspirational guy.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
said he was in the airport and bought some food and they didn't give him some sauce or something.
Uh-huh.
So he went back and the guy was like, sauce is gonna be 75 cents. He was like, really? 75 cents for this? So he said the guy was kind of nasty to him. So he paid the 75 cents and he tipped the guy $10.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, listen, I don't match energy. I set the standard. And so you don't have the right to mess my day up. And spiritual growth is, he could have cussed that guy out.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe 5 years ago, he would have went back and forth with this guy about this barbecue sauce. But instead, what he did was not only purchase it, but tipped him on top of that. And that's because once you grow spiritually, one of the key aspects I think of growing spiritually is realizing that you don't deserve anything, that you've been graced everything. And
Right.
so now you treat other people the same way. I don't deserve it. You
Right.
don't deserve it. But I'm in a position to grace you, so I'm going to grace you as well. And so I think once we start to, you look at how you handle different situations in life and how you would have handled it before, and you can see your values, you can see your purpose, you can see grace, you can see, because actually we're actually commanded to grow. In 2 Peter 3:18 it says, but grow in the grace and the knowledge of Jesus Christ. Like, we're commanded to grow. So if you're not growing, you in sin, you sinning. We're commanded to grow. And so we got to be getting 1% better every day.
Oh man,
Every day.
man, I tell you, remember I told you I talked with Pastor John. That is, I talked with Pastor John about measuring spiritual growth, right? Because I'm a goals guy. So like, I'm like, man, how do I measure my spiritual growth? He told me, he said, um, it's about dying.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And he was like, dying to yourself, dying to your flesh,
Right.
right? The part of you that does not want you to grow, the part of you that wants you to stay or even go towards things that are not of the spirit, right? And I thought about that thing, and you brought up fasting, bro. And what we're doing when we do that is bringing the flesh
Under
under
subjection.
subjection, right? Pretty much saying, hey, I'm transferring power from the flesh to the spirit, So when the things that I don't need to do, I'm going to be listening to my spirit man and not my flesh, my flesh man. Okay. I think about, man, it was this got my palms sweaty. All right. I was thinking, man, I was watching this podcast, and a lot of times I grab spiritual things from, worldly things. So
Right.
like, I was watching this podcast. It was these guys talking about becoming billionaires, right? This one guy, he had probably 500,000. He was closer to being a billionaire than the other guy. He might have had like 2 or 3 million. They were still millionaires, right? But they were trying to get to billion. One guy was like, man, if I had $1 billion, this is the one that had the less money. He said, man, if I had $1 billion, you know what I'll do? I'll do XYZ. I'll blow it on this.
Right.
And the other guy that was closer to the billion, he looked at him like this. He was like, man, in order for you to get to that point, you're going to have to destroy the old person or the person you are now in order to get to that point.
Right.
I'm looking at it like this. There is a person God wants you to be, right? But in order for you to get there, you have to die to this old self,
Right.
right? You have to die to this old self in order to get to that new self,
That's it.
to become that new person, right? The things that I used to want to do, right? I have to die to that person. Why? Because if you love me,
Keep my
right?
commandments.
If you love me though.
That's what he said.
That's what he said. And it's so because the thing about it is we have a love for things. Don't get me wrong. We talking right now, right?
That's it.
We have a love for things, right? That we want. Oh man, this would be good. It'll be nice. That'll feel good. That'll look good. But bro, is that in agreement with what God wants for you?
Right. Right.
Is that in agreement with what God taught you?
Right.
You know?
Right. Especially in if you think about life as seasons.
Right.
He may not want that for you right now. Because again, going back to what we said, you're not developed enough for it.
Right.
You're not, like, you're not gonna give your 1-year-old state. They're not developed enough to handle that.
Right.
Right. And the thing about spiritual growth that is also so critical, man, is you got to use these other principles too, because you can't compare your spiritual growth to somebody else's.
Absolutely.
And the way God operates is he doesn't operate in everybody's life the same way.
Mm-mm.
You know,
Mm-mm.
there's certain things that develop me that I need to do to grow spiritually that my wife might not need to do, or that my friend may not need to do. They may have to do something different
Right.
to grow spiritually. But it does come down to one point that you made. You got to deny yourself. Jesus said, if any man come after me,
Mm.
let him first
Right.
deny himself.
Right.
We don't want that. Take up his cross and follow me. We want to pick up the cross and follow him. Meaning my struggles and stuff, that's what he's saying. He said, you deny yourself. Take that stuff up and come after me. Because what's going to happen? What's going to happen is if you deny yourself and you take that stuff up and come after me, I'm going to get rid of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But we don't want to deny ourselves. And we don't live in a society that teaches us to deny ourselves. Like if you think about, and I'm talking from a Christian standpoint, you think about these other religions, you think about like Buddhism, and man, them jokers fast.
Mm-hmm.
They fast because they're taught to deny themselves. We're not taught that like we should be. We're taught to get my blessing. That's not denying yourself. Like nothing is, it's not pretty. Spiritual growth is not pretty. And if you're going to run your race the way you're supposed to run it, every aspect of the race is yours. It's nobody else's.
Right.
And that includes the timing. That includes comparisons. That includes your values, your purpose. Your purpose, someone else's purpose are two different things. And you've got to, man, that clip you sent me some weeks ago about the rain. Boy, the only people that don't like the rain is people who don't want to grow.
Right.
The
Right.
tree, what'd you say? The trees ain't complaining.
Absolutely.
Right? Like if you want to grow spiritually, there's a process that you have to go through. And the only way you know that process is get with the person who has the blueprint for your life.
Right.
That's the only way.
Get with the manufacturer.
Get with the manufacturer.
Yeah.
Like and we don't want to do that.
Right. Right.
You don't want to do that. Listen, Ms. Crawford says this: comfortability in being stagnant is detrimental. You get comfortable with just chilling. You get comfortable with that, and that's a problem that I believe we have is that comfortability. I saw this quote one time that I'm gonna throw it back to you, and we can get on out of here. I think it was by Dale C. Bronner. He said, "Friends keep you comfortable. Enemies lead to movement." He said, "Friends keep you comfortable. Enemies lead to movement." Wow. He's like, when you're running up on opposition, you gonna do something. You gonna do something different because you're running up on opposition. Like if David never had Goliath to fight, would we even be hearing about him? You know what I'm saying? Like enemies, opposition leads us in an area of our life where we can grow spiritually. And that brings us back to wherever we're rooted at, man. Whatever we're focused on. So let me ask you this, and then we can jump out of here. We kind of skipped this with embracing your own timing, but spiritual. What are some practical things that you do or that people can do to grow spiritually in their life, to keep their focus on their values and their purpose?
Oh man. Oh wow. So when I think about that, bro, the first thing, and I guess it depends on who you are. I mean, where you are in your walk,
Right.
too, you know. So, but off the top of my head, man, I think about fasting, right? And like I said, it depends on where you are in your walk. You know, with that, fasting has really shown me how to separate my spirit, man, and from my body.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
you know. So like my
Body of
body,
death.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so being able to control this right here, you know.
Right. Right.
And I also, man, your and I'm saying the ones that I feel like are not necessarily talked about a lot, but the people you surround yourself with.
That's it.
And I can go in about reading the Bible, I can talk about prayer, I can talk about those things, but like I do believe when you have people that are, let's say, hey, where you're trying to go, or some people that have your same mindset when it comes to God, I almost want to edit that a little bit, because I don't know what your mindset is about God, but but the
Right.
people that you want to be like, I would try to get around those people, that you want to be like spiritually, a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
often, and see how they operate, see what they
That's it.
do, right? Kind of see what music they listen to, what's in their
Mm.
house, if they allow you to come in there, what they watch, you know, things they
Right.
things that they continue to feed themselves, you know. I think
That's it.
that's probably some of the things I know I got. And, I know I do surround myself with the right people, and also, man, having a consistent fasting regimen that you do maybe on a weekly or monthly basis.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Right. Right. Yeah. Fasting, I think, is
right,
critical. Because of the principle of what
right.
Jesus said. He said, "If any man come after me, let him
Hmm.
deny
Hmm.
himself." So fasting is
Hmm.
denying
Hmm.
yourself, and I think fasting is food,
Right,
fasting from
right.
food. But I think you can fast from other
Absolutely.
things
I
too.
agree.
Like whenever I'm fasting on the
Mhm.
weekly fast, I'm also fasting from
Right,
social
right.
media. There are other things that you can fast from, but the principle is denying
Absolutely.
yourself. Right, and I like what you said about surrounding yourself with the right people, because man, scripture came up last night during fasting. Psalms 1. First thing he says is, "Blessed is the man who walks
That's
not
what.
in the counsel
Mm-hmm.
of the
Mm-hmm.
ungodly, well, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scoffers." And one thing that I heard, because I was listening to a guy talk about it, is the progression in the
Mm.
text. Right? He says, "Blessed is the man that walks not
Preach,
in the counsel." You walking with him.
preach.
Nor stands in the way of sinners. Now you
Mm-hmm.
chilling with him. You
Mm.
standing with him. Nor sits
Mm.
in the seat
Now you
of the
sitting.
scornful. Now
Now
you
you
sitting
sitting with
down
them.
with them.
Whew. Good.
You know what I'm saying? Like surrounding yourself with the right
Right,
type of
right.
people who are gonna push you in the right
Mm-hmm.
direction. Like, now, that's not to say that you should always be around folk that's holier than thou and all of that. That's not what it's saying. It specifically says the
Mm-hmm.
counsel of the
Preach.
ungodly. So that goes back to our values and our purpose. If you got your fortune, your wealth by doing wicked things, I'm not taking
Right,
counsel from you. You know what I'm saying? Even though you're where I want to be, the process that you use to get there goes against my
right.
values. And so I think the fasting is critical. I think being around the right people
Mm-hmm.
is critical. But for me, here's the one that I think helps
Gotcha.
us the most. Being in constant
Mm.
communion with the
Wow.
manufacturer,
Yeah.
right? Whatever that looks like. Sometimes for me, that's going to the gym and putting on the right sermon, the right things in my ear. Sometimes that's cutting the grass. Sometimes, man, I read this quote by your boy Smith
Smith Wiggle.
Wigglesworth. He said, I've never prayed for more than 20 minutes, but I've never went 20 minutes without praying. Listen, constant
If y'all don't know who,
communication with
if
the
y'all don't know who Smith
manufacturer.
Wigglesworth is, man, y'all need to, hey, do some research. Smith Wigglesworth. Yeah.
Hey, so I think that's so key, man. Like, we want to plan
Right.
for our life. We want to know what to
Constant
do
key.
next, but we don't talk to the person that sees around the
Oh
corner about
man.
it. That's the last resort for
Right.
us. You know, People will text me all the time or hit me up on Facebook or wherever. Hey, I gotta make this decision. What's your advice? No, I'm gonna give them my advice. Then through the conversation I hear, well, I ain't prayed about that yet. Let me pray about that. Well, that's what you should have done first. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes the counsel that God gives us, sometimes we hear it directly from his word or directly from him. But most often he uses somebody else. And so if you've got yourself in isolation, then you're not in a place to spiritually grow, because our spiritual growth comes from those times alone with the manufacturer. But it also comes from being around the right type of people depositing in us.
Absolutely,
You know what I'm saying?
bro.
Depositing in us. You got something
Bro,
else for that?
nah, I don't, man. You hit it.
Yeah.
You hit it nail on the
Yeah,
head
so-
right there, bro. I mean, that what you feeding yourself, bro. You know, now that's one of
That's
the
it.
things when when I was living in Baton Rouge, riding the white Honda Civic, listening to Andrew Womack on the road.
Right.
If y'all know who Andrew Womack is, Google him. Want to know the gospel?
Bad, man.
All right. So, but man, like it was just a constant feeding of God's word and allowing myself to be submerged inside, immersed inside of his word, and just saturated with all of the things of God. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, man. So I think it's key. Let's go back over
Right.
these 3 points because we've been
No,
on an
right.
hour.
My bad.
Focusing on your own on your own journey, not making comparisons. Like if you're gonna run your race, that's got to be one of the first things that you focus on. Is that, hey, I'm not focused on what nobody else is doing, and that's so hard to do, because you see them running past you, but they're running a different race. They're running a different race. Man, I remember. Man,
Go ahead.
I remember this
Go
last
ahead.
one, dog. When we used to really be into golf, like in love with golf,
right.
like, bruh, me and Barry were roommates in college, and man, we had 2 different rooms, and we had a den in the middle, Golf Channel. It was on golf. The TV
That's
never
when-
went off. I'm talking
that's when
24/7.
Tiger was
It was
Tiger.
on the Golf Channel. Tiger was Tiger, and
Red
that's where I'm
shirt.
going. They had a red shirt
it.
on Sunday. They had a quote that if you get paired with Tiger on Sunday, you already down
I
3
thought it was
strokes.
4, but we go with 3.
4.
Yeah,
It might be 4. Right. And the implication was you're so focused on who you're playing with that you're not focused on playing your own game. And we get that way. We get so focused on who is next to us, not understanding they in a different race than we running. They're not even running the same race. And so focusing on your own journey was the first thing we talked about. Embracing your own timing, right? Understanding that your timing and God's timing may be 2 different things. And then staying true to your values and your purpose, dealing with spiritual growth. Man, so that's one thing we want you to think about as you go forth this weekend, the next week, moving forward, is how can I focus on my own race? We're halfway through the year, right? We about to hit July. We're at the halfway point in the year, and maybe the first half of the year you spend a lot of time on other folks' stuff. The second half of the year, if you're going to reach those goals, if you're going to put in place those plans that you have, you got to focus on your own race. But you got anything else for the people, for the good of the group,
I ain't gonna say that because I'm gonna end up starting something, man. And I know we got to get off, but like I ain't gonna say that because I clear that's a whole other conversation, and probably do something
Right.
else. Yeah.
Right. Okay. But yeah, man, we hope y'all. I see something else in the chat before we jump off. We hope this was okay. We hope this was beneficial. We hope that you got something from it. Only thing we ask you to do is to share it out. If it's something on here that was beneficial for you, share it out to somebody else that you think it can benefit. Watch it over and over, send it out to people. Because the reason we have these conversations is we have these conversations all the time. And we just decided, hey, let's involve some other people in these conversations. But we have these conversations almost on a weekly basis, and you need somebody in your circle that you can have these conversations with. You know, and just to be open and transparent, like Barry. Let me tell y'all something. Barry said something to me a couple of days ago. He said, "Bro, if you see me getting cocky, getting arrogant, man,
Please.
check me.
Please
check me." You know, because it's important to have somebody to hold you accountable. And then he said some things to me about serving differently at my church. Like, you need to serve. So I reached out to some people, and it was a push. And you need people that's going to push you out of your comfort zone, or that just see a calling or see something in you, and they're going to push you that way. And so often we don't surround ourselves with people who are pushing us in the direction that we need to go.
Yeah, man.
Dude, what's up, man?
You want some people that's going to push you towards your purpose. That's what you want.
That's it.
You want some people that's going to like push you in that direction, not away from it. And like, I look at this guy as my best friend, but also like he's also the walking Bible. You know what I'm saying? So like, I call this man, like, hey bro, just check this out. I need your opinion on this thing, because he has an extensive knowledge. I've known him in college. He had when it comes to the word, this is the guy. But and I will say this, you want some people in your life that they care about your feelings, but they care more about your future. All right. So they're not afraid to tell you something that is going to be beneficial for you now, for your future. Okay. They're not just going to roll with everything you say. Yeah.
Yes, man.
Yeah. So
yeah. That's critical, man. That's so critical. I see Du popped on. Du, you're gonna have to go back and watch, man. We've been on for an hour. We about to get off. He said Wilmont pushed me a week ago. He said ain't no more 5Ks. We on the 10K now. And we talked about the 10K earlier too, bro. But yeah, it's important to have people that's gonna push you, and it's important to have people that's gonna push you, especially spiritually in the word too, because one thing that God left out the Bible was your opinion. He left that out.
Hey, that's it.
He left your
that's
opinion
it right
out.
there.
So book chapter, you see the hat, book chapter verse.
Done.
Book chapter verse. He left your opinion out of there. So, but we appreciate y'all getting on and rocking with us for this hour. Hopefully something that was said blessed you, something you can use, even if it's just one thing. And if it's something that blessed and helped you, we just ask that you share it with somebody else. Man, we appreciate y'all. We'll be on again very soon. Y'all take care.